member of All Souls here at All Souls. Come on. Whether you are here in the room or online, we are glad you are here, and your presence enriches all of us and our time together. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, and our tradition, it's like a big tent that is large enough for all of the beliefs and approaches to the questions that matter. That said, our values of inclusion, justice, and compassion are strong in all of us and are what bind us together. We seek to build the beloved community, making room for everyone and creating a world where everyone's needs are met. Whoever you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcomed here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you are welcome, and you are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today. You may be new here this morning. Welcome. I hope that you have visited the welcome table in the lobby where you can learn more about our congregation.
My name is Anthony Edwards, and I am the Director of Music and Worship Arts here at All Souls, and I am sad to say that Reverend Erin is under the weather today, so I am a poor, sloppy impersonator of Reverend Erin. It is my pleasure to welcome Judith Clurman to our time together this morning. Judith is the composer of Washington Women, the choral suite you will hear a teaser of today that the choir and I will perform in its entirety on October 21st, 19th, and 20th. Now the dates are all screwing my head. When I decided it would be important for the music program to bring Washington Women to this congregation, I felt it would be the coolest thing ever to bring Judith into Kansas City and to All Souls. I went to the Friends of Forum and said, can we please do this? And they said, graciously, they said yes, but she needs to present a forum, and we did that yesterday. It was the really best time together. I really couldn't figure out a better way to have her share the why of it all. Why ask the Friends of Forum to sponsor her to visit KC and All Souls? It's a very special I would like to extend a very special thank you to them for making this all possible. My hope for the choir and for me to glean greater knowledge about Washington Women and to gain a greater sense of ownership for our performance has come to fruition. And now with her presence with us this morning, we will all get a peek behind the curtain and get to visit why Judith extended this opportunity for music and history to come together. Judith has had a whirlwind tour of the Marriott, Ragazza, Bragg Auditorium, Conover, KCUR, Classical KC, and Axwa. That's it. We've kept her very busy this weekend, and it's been a real pleasure to have here. All kidding aside, it truly has been a joy to spend the last couple of days with my new friend, Judith. I would like to thank her for the work with the choir yesterday. Our rehearsal was truly fun, productive, and magical. In the afternoon yesterday, Judith shared a very informative panel discussion with Ann Calvert, the president of League of Women Voters, and our own Sarah Labar, vice president of the National Actors Equity Association. Today, she will share more with us about her work in creating Washington Women and will conduct the choir in this important words from First Lady Abigail Adams and Senator and Congresswoman Margaret Chase Smith. Thank you, Judith, for being here with us. A very special thank you, too, for Sasha Groshing to join us today and be with us for the presentation of Washington Women next month. Today, we explore why words matter. Judith writes, and I steal her words, In our politically polarized world, words matter more than ever before. As a result, careful attention to the study of the treatment of texts in a musical composition is crucial for a successful chorus and performance. Words matter. Today, we explore the dynamics of the choral experience, particularly focusing on the power of words to impart meaning and to bridge between the individual singer, the ensemble, and you, the audience. These opening words are by Judith Mannheim. We gather together in this space to honor and understand our lives. We bring our pasts and would share them, our dreams and would express them. We use words, song, silence, and gesture. Words cannot define our lives, but they enable us to reach out to each other, to tell and to listen, that we may be renewed, connected, and unburdened. Apprehend with wonder the lives of those around you. From wonder into wonder, existence opens.
Here, today, in this place, with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. And may this chalice we light our way.
Will you rise as you are able?
I apologize.
And then remain standing as we sing together.
Forgot that part.
Together we affirm.
Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Hello. At this time, I'd like to invite our young kids and teens on up here. If you'd like to join me, I would love to have you up here. I see friends coming. The morning. Hi, everybody. Come on in. Today, I want to share a story with you about a very important woman. Her name was Abigail Adams. Have you heard of her? No. Okay, we're going to learn a little. She lived a long time ago, like in the 1700s. Yeah. I'm from the 1900s, so she's like 200 years older than me. Yeah. But Abigail, like I said, she was born in the 1700s, and there's a couple things I want you to know about her. First of all, she was a Unitarian. Does that sound familiar? Why? It's part of the name of this church, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. We have the same faith tradition. And also, Abigail was the second First Lady of the United States. You know what a First Lady is? Anybody? What is it?
It's the First Lady to be there.
The First Lady to be there, right. And sometimes also the First Lady is the title we give to the person who's married to the president, if she's a woman, if she happens to be a woman. So, she was the second lady to be married to the president of the United States. And so that means she was married to her husband, John, and he was our second president. She and John are married, and were married, and we know that they had a very loving partnership. They cared so much for each other, and they respected each other, and they liked to give each other really good advice. That sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Yeah. It sounds very loving, doesn't it? Yeah. And helpful, exactly. Yes, you've got it. Now, have you ever given advice to a friend? Yeah, how did you do it? Oh, that is really helpful. She helped her friend feel better when they lost their grandparent. How did you tell your friend advice? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you were on the playground, and they were misbehaving or doing something that wasn't kind, and you stood up. You gave some good advice of how to treat people. Okay. Oh, you were giving them safety advice. Oh, that's smart. Smart. Good advice. Good advice. All right. Now, you guys were telling me that you were able to give your advice in person, like side by side, right? Well, back in the 1700s, they did it a little differently. Well, they did it that way too, but they also used another method. So, because they didn't have phones to call their friend and give them advice, right? No, they didn't have email to call and give their friends advice. So, John was working in a different state. Actually, at that time it was a colony, but words, they matter. And and so John and Abigail were far, far apart. And she had to give him her really good advice, okay? But she was very busy on the farm, and so she couldn't go see him in person. And so how do you think they were able to share their news back and forth, or their ideas and their really good, helpful advice? Letters. You guys are fast. So, yeah, they wrote letters. Did you have another idea? Yeah, they sent them in envelopes, right? Right. You have another idea?
They could use the pen and paper, wrote it down, and gave it to a person.
Ooh, pigeon carrier. Fascinating. That would be so cool. I don't know if as many would have survived if they used that method, but that's great. You all have the right idea. They use pen and paper. So let me see where I am. So Abigail loved to share her ideas and her hopes for the new country, and even advice on how to make sure everyone was to be treated fairly. And in one of her particular correspondence, she shared with John that she felt slavery was not only evil, but a threat to our democratic experiment. That's what they called this country they were building. And she shared with him her hope for slavery to one day be abolished. And that's a pretty big idea for that time. And in another letter, she wrote there was one thing that she really wanted John to include. And that was, as they were writing their new laws, she wrote to him to remember the ladies. What does that mean? Any ideas? Jude? Be what? Be helpful to the ladies? Yeah? Another idea? Don't make them servants. That's probably a lot of what he meant, yeah? Well, why? Let's see. She wanted to make sure that as they were writing these new laws, that the women received rights under this new government. So her letters helped John and other lawmakers think about what is fair and right for everyone, not just for men. She suggested things like giving property rights to women. That means women get to own land. And supporting women getting education. And in one letter, she even warned him that if women were not given a voice in these new laws, that women would be determined to have a rebellion. My kind of woman. So, it's safe to say she tried very hard to influence the ideas that made their way into our Constitution and the framework of the United States. So, do you know that today people still write letters to our lawmakers that are making decisions about our government? Yeah? Has anybody ever done that? Out here? Let me see your hands. Oh, look around. Look behind you. Wow, that is a lot of hands. Wow. So, today, as we head to our classes, which isn't exactly our classes, I'll get to that, we are going to practice writing to our lawmakers. It might be drawing pictures, but we're going to get to share what we hope and dream for our future. And if you feel like you want to send that to your lawmaker, you can share that with your grown-up, and they'll help you get it in the mail, okay? All right. So, instead of going downstairs, we are going to go all the way to the end of the hallway to Conover today for some games. All right? And thank you to the congregation for singing us out today.
Usually they say I'm supposed to come up, but I just am supposed to come up today. I'm trying to deal with the step stool because the last time people said they couldn't see me. I learn. I've been tasked by the board to solicit your donations today, and I've been thinking about how to word my appeal. A few weeks ago, I was in Philadelphia visiting friends, and I visited the first Unitarian Universalist Church of Philadelphia, founded in 1796, now located in its current third church, built in 1885. Now, as I looked around, being a board member here, I noticed the leaking roof, the lack of plumbing, one restroom, one stall for everyone, that was on the same level as the church. Otherwise, you got to go look in the basement. Nobody recommended that. And so I thought, well, I'm pretty sure I know what the ask is going to be. We need to fix the roof. We need more bathrooms. But the vice president of their board came up and he didn't say what I expected. He said, "What do you want from our church?" Well, that's a familiar question. We're asking that now across the board. What programs do you want? What service do you want us to do? And what physical plant do you want us to repair? What do you want for our church? And it struck me that that was just the right note. So I ask you to open your wallets with the question, what do you want for our church? What should we be doing? And donate appropriately. The offering will now be given generously, I hope, and gratefully received, I'm sure. Somebody's got baskets? We now recite the dedication of the offering, which ought to be someplace. Yes. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change towards a just and compassionate society.
Approaching Conflict Like a Poem by Tanya Marquez. I joined a poetry class because a new acquaintance invited me to. I mostly joined so I could get to know this person better. I was captivated the first day by the deep wisdom my professor shared. To me, it was like being at church. Every word he spoke found fertile soil in my heart. There were times where I felt myself overcome with beauty. The beauty I found in this class contrasted with the conflicts I was witnessing at work, in society, and almost everywhere. A colorful, simple painting of two people's heads facing one another with brightly colored sparks or energy radiating off them. One Friday, as I listened to my teacher recite one of our poems, I wondered, what if I approached conflict like writing a poem? What if everyone did? Most of the time, conflict is reactive. People tend to do and say things before they've had a chance to process their emotions or to understand the totality of the conflict. But I learned in my poetry class about carefully choosing words, not because they need to rhyme or have a specific number of syllables, but because they need to be precise and beautiful. Poets are intentional about how to best deliver the message, how to best uncover the mystery of life so that others can experience it. Silences matter too. Part of the message is to pause, to wait, to leave space to breathe before the next line. There's also the rhythm. A poem is a song, and songs can touch on difficult subjects too, but the rhythm, the melody matters. Since that moment, I've been wondering, what if the next time I find myself in the midst of a conflict, I can slow down and imagine I'm about to write a poem? Then conflict resolution or transformation would turn into a craft, a laboratory where beauty is created. There would be a slowing down that would help me connect with what I'm feeling so that I can find the right words to share that experience and a silence to let me listen to the poem of the other.
Clothesline, a poem by Marilyn Maciel. I, you, us, them, those people. Wouldn't it be lovely if one could live in a constant state of we? Some of the most commonplace words can be the biggest dividers. They. What if there was no they? What if there was only us? If words could be seen as they floated out of our mouths, would we feel no shame as they passed beyond our lips? If we were to string our words on a communal clothesline, would we feel proud as our thoughts flapped in the breeze?
I am clearly not the Reverend Erin Dajka Holley. I am another sloppy substitute. I am Jane Wilson, a longtime member of All Souls, and also this year serving as chair of the music team, which is why Anthony selected me to take on this role. I am so honored to be here. I have had so much fun the last couple of days with Judith Clurman. I think I speak for the whole choir when I say our 3-hour rehearsal yesterday was a blast. Judith, I would like for you to start off by telling us a little bit about how you came to create Washington Women and why you did it.
Well, hi, thank you for having me. I've fallen in love with Kansas City and working with this chorus and your great music director here. It all started because I had, I think, about a dozen American composers set words of the presidents. And this began in the early 2000s. I don't even remember the date, but it was for a performance at the Library of Congress. And I knew this was not the complete cycle after we did the performance. I went to the who's who of American composers, from Pulitzer Prize winning composers, Paul Moravec, and musical theater composers, Jason Robert Brown. And I was teaching, I was directing choral activities at Juilliard at that point, and I went to many students that were composers who were in my conducting class, and I asked them to set different presidents. Democrats, Republicans, purple, pink, all different people, even people whose philosophies and policies I disagreed with, but everything had to be in this cycle. And I enjoyed performing these. We finished them, the cycle, after President Obama's inauguration, and I went to that inauguration, and I stood outside from 5:30 in the morning, and I said, I need words, I have to get somebody to write these words, and Yes We Can, and it was a theater composer named Georgia Stitt. I had women write, and I had men write, because a good composer is a good composer. And then I thought a couple of years later, I have to remember the ladies. This is bad, you know? I myself had gone through, I have a lot of prejudice as a woman musician and woman conductor. And I said, I have to put in these great words. And I brought a list because I have to tell you, getting permissions and knowing it was going to be difficult to get permissions took about 3 years. Not everything is in public domain, but I never gave up. It took about 8 years for this piece to happen. Why I chose Washington Women? Because, and women's words, my sister gave me the title Washington Women. We were talking one day, and I said, great, we're going to do that. These are women that have made great influence. You speak about First Lady. Those First Ladies have been absolutely fantastic and wonderful, and sometimes we have not paid enough attention to them. And Congresswomen are, we added our new vice president and Speaker of the House eventually. Oh, everybody's included. It was Condoleezza Rice, Elena Kagan, Eleanor Roosevelt, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Betty Ford, Margaret Chase Smith, whose words you just heard, Shirley Chisholm, Laura Bush, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Sandra Day O'Connor, Abigail Adams, Madeleine Albright, Barbara Bush, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Michelle Obama. And I'm not partisan in this, but I think this day and age, I'm going to go off answering the question a little bit, and this happened yesterday, because I was lying in bed last night, and I said, wow, I wrote this. I didn't write. David Chase did the majority of the composing. I edited, I rewrote, I put all the words together, I suggested different things, and I was just very involved in every note of this piece. What just happened with the kids here is why I wrote this piece, and I believed in this piece. It's an educational tool, and I hope it takes off. But more than that, Barbara Bush gave a commencement speech at Wellesley College, and I think we all have to listen to it right now in this country, because words matter, and he did quote me, Anthony quoted me, words matter, it's too divisive out there, and through music, maybe we could change a few people's opinions. Believe in to quote Barbara Bush, believe in something larger than yourself, get involved in some of the big ideas of our time. I'm leaving, unquote, I'm leaving Kansas City and telling all these college-age students whom I teach to make sure to vote and don't complain to me, and get out and get your friends to vote. That's why I've written Washington Women. It's so dear to my heart. It's so important. But wait a minute. I also wrote it because now I look at it very differently. I became a grandmother 2.5 years ago, and I want my granddaughter to learn all about these women too. And I hope this musical cycle inspires children of all ages to listen to the words. The words matter more than the music. I'm saying that as a musician. Everything we sing, the words matter. Remember, we watch people and politicians and we go, why did they say that? I hate them. They stink. It's all the words, right? It's words. And these women said the greatest things in the world.
Would you share, for those who weren't here at the forum yesterday, your wonderful story about the world premiere of this piece? The Washington Women.
Yes, we did it at and you can watch it online actually on my website. We did a few movements, and I'm forgetting how many. I mean, I just keep moving on. I think 5 movements at the studio at National Public Radio. It was after COVID ended. By the way, the piece was written and recorded before COVID, but then COVID held up the whole thing. And then because of what happened with the election, then we added Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris to the cycle. And that's great. Anyway, we did this at the National Public Radio, and about 100,000 people have listened to it. Some, you see the comments, some really love the cycle, and some are always saying, why didn't you include this woman and that woman and this and this and this? And it is what it is.
In your own life and career, how have words mattered? These words and other words.
Well, we've gotten to know each other, so I tell her my secrets about my life. You know, my mother was my great inspiration. And I listened to all sorts of music because of her, and went to see every Broadway show and every concert. And if I went to a concert, I was remembering this, and I went, oh, I don't like that, I hate that. And she used to say to me, don't use the word hate. It's a terrible word. You're never allowed to use the word hate. And it all started with my mother saying, don't do this, don't do that. You're using the wrong pronoun. That doesn't matter, right? That doesn't work. And she taught me a lot about words. And I had good English teachers that taught me about words. But more than that, and growing now, and through my career, I'm a woman, as you see, and I've been in classical music, and I myself went to Juilliard as I was trained as a pianist, and I went to Juilliard as a voice major and did a lot of singing and always conducted. So I'm into all of this stuff in my life, and have had a wonderful career. And awful things were said to me, you know, that would not be said to a man. You know, she's aggressive. I'm strong, right? You know, I never liked that. I never liked, oh, she's a woman conducting. And I never liked that. I'm a person conducting. I'm Jewish, and I have resented people saying to me, you're a Jew, you can't get this job. Those words have hurt deeper than the woman comments. But also I've had great things said to me. And that's important to say. When you just said what you did about this is why I'm alive, to make music with great professional ensembles, with the greatest conductors, but coming here is a joy in my life. There's nothing greater. I don't even know what I did last week. I just keep moving on. I am very troubled by watching the news. I don't sleep at night because this democracy matters to me. And I hope, I go back to Washington Women. I wish they were playing this on air so people could listen. Republicans and Democrats, words matter.
Words matter, and music also matters. Words help deepen the experience, make it even spiritual. What kind of connections are you hoping this music makes? And you've already spoken to that a little bit, but can you go on and more about that?
Well, we all listen to words and language differently. And what you just listened to the piece, and you had the words up here. I love when they're getting, they're good. You're understanding the words. I want people to listen to the words. That's the whole thing, and not just the piece of music. I want people to hear what they really mean. And what they're going to mean to these young kids is going to be different than to you. That's what Washington Women is about. But you don't have to do every piece, and you don't, there are songs about, there's a piece about freedom that I'm going to quote because I love that one. And that, in essence, is what this whole cycle is kind of all about, where Eleanor Roosevelt, the great Eleanor Roosevelt, said, "Freedom makes a huge requirement of every human being. With freedom comes responsibility." I wish every child would be listening to that. And Hillary Rodham Clinton, human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights, once and for all, right? Betty Ford, the search for human freedom can never be complete without freedom for women. Now, Democrat, Republican, all different sorts of words together. And actually, the granddaughter of Eleanor Roosevelt, Nancy Roosevelt, Ireland, who gave me permission to use her grandmother's words, said, "Isn't it great that these three women are combined?" It just has to get into your soul. But what really mattered to me was the New York premiere, where I didn't want to do it in a concert hall. It cost too much money. So I took the money and had my professionals who premiered it. They came and they sang with a high school in the Bronx. And I taught it to kids in the Bronx. And they walked around their school singing Freedom and Abigail Adams. That's what it's about. And that's, let it be spiritual, let it be this, let it be that. But it means different things to different people. It's just like if you read a psalm. To some people, or the Bible, I think, a believer or a non-believer, sometimes they're beautiful stories, but sometimes people are touched and believe in them differently.
I think you just answered my next question.
Oh, what was it? What is it?
Well, in the world today, well, in the Washington Women, we hear a wonderfully inspiring and consistent message about the American dream. But in the world today, we hear lots of different messages about what that American dream is. So my question was, why do you think that's especially important now? But I think you maybe
Because
already...
I often say this to my students. My grandparents came over in steerage from Russia. I'm glad they're not alive to see what happened in their American dream right now. My father fought in World War II in many countries in Europe, and still believed in the democracy and Franklin Roosevelt, and told us stories because of the religion he was, why he was hated in his group. But he went in and liberated a concentration camp. And I'm really glad he's not alive to see what happened to his beloved America. He instilled all of this into me. I just shouldn't give my mother all the credit. But, that's an interesting story, as coming from a family of professional doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs, as I say. Here came the musician, and they grew to understand who I was. And I never actually thought about the women part of my life, because I was fortunate to be schooled at Juilliard, and there were great women teachers there and male teachers and famous experts of the world, and we never put up barriers. So my mentor was a woman, and we just did our work.
I think we've talked about how both words and music matter, but yesterday in rehearsal, you coached us.
What did I say?
You coached us, you said, hold your music up, smile, look at the audience, think about what you're saying, and let your face and your expression relay that. How do the performance goals impact the message?
All the time. I'm now in my life, I actually teach musical theater majors. I've worked with all the composers and the who's who in musical theater, and suddenly I'm thrown into doing this. I analyze scores for these kids. Just like this score, the dynamics are there for reasons. The words are there for reasons. The commas are there for reasons. The semicolons are there for reasons. That's what learning a text is about, and you have to really study it separately, right, to really get into it. And choruses never have time for that, but they should make time, because they're telling a story. And that's what performing really is about. You know, you're not supposed to be watching vocal technique and, oh my God, I better get that right or she's gonna kill me, you know. Make a mistake, but communicate to human beings. That's what we need to see more than ever. But you cheat in this place. Look, I mean, you look up. This is the only house of worship I've ever been in where there's the words in the back too. And you don't look down, so maybe you have to put the music up there and they could look at the music and they'll sing it out. But the music, what comes first, in my opinion? When Schubert wrote a song, he went to the great poets of the day, and he was inspired by the poetry, right? When Beethoven wrote his Missa Solemnis, he was inspired by the liturgy. Whether, I'll say as a musician, I believe I like a poem or not, it's my duty to let the audience hear that story. I will get up and conduct music of every religion, everything, and I tell people I have to convert when I'm conducting. I have to understand the liturgy historically and where it's coming from, because you go into certain liturgy and it's vibrant and phenomenal, and you can't whitewash it. Is that these days, I don't know what the expression is, am I saying the right thing? But you can't get rid of what it is historically, and you have to perform it. They have to perform it. My job is in choruses is to work with text. I do with the most professional choruses. Not every conductor does that. They go for beautiful sound. I go for words, words, words. And we need to teach in public school in this great United States the difference between a noun and a verb and a conjunction and a semicolon and that. And kids are not being taught enough about that, because otherwise they won't appreciate this, right? Because a comma could change the meaning of something. And this group really listened to what I was saying yesterday. They were good. I really loved what they did. It's all about education.
One question that is on many of our minds, and you hinted yesterday that you want to expand this song cycle.
Right.
Who else? Who else? What other voices would you like to include?
Well, interesting you asked that question. It took about 3 years to get permission for Washington Women when I started dreaming it and started calling people and writing to people. By the way, that was a fun moment, but it was a pain in the you-know-what. The Bush Library was great, Barbara Bush was great, the Roosevelt family was great, but until people trusted me and I got to the right people and I got an email address, I mean, President Obama couldn't get to from Michelle Obama. I mean, everyone loves this, so I'll tell you this for a minute, and then I'll go on with that. Condoleezza Rice, she didn't say these words when, for example, she was Secretary of State. the words we use. She said them afterwards, so they were not public domain. I had to find somebody who played chamber music with her through finding a friend who went to Juilliard with me and said, do you know her? Oh, she loves playing chamber music. I want her words, right? Elena Kagan, when it was a case, a Supreme Court case. We own it. It's owned by the American people. Freedom, going to the Ford Library was great. I have to go rah-rah for these people because the people in charge there got right on the phone. They were fantastic. Margaret Chase Smith, public domain. Shirley Chisholm, I found out public domain. Laura Bush, she wrote something anti a president who said something bad at a rally. And she paraphrased Martin Luther King's words, and I had to go through a lot of legal stuff about, can you paraphrase, is that permitted to, I mean, it was a pain. Kamala Harris, we used her words. I listened to the first words she gave when she became vice president, and some words of Nancy Pelosi mixed. Sandra Day O'Connor's okay. Abigail Adams, for goodness sake, 1776. And since you have not been with me, an exciting part of that, and you heard all of this, she wrote those in March 1776, and she was writing them to John Adams, and he was in Philadelphia at the time when that letter probably arrived. Look what happened July 4th of that year. And Madeleine Albright, very difficult. She, to get those permissions, we recorded the piece, and the day of the recording, I finally got the permission. She said the words that we used on a talk show and in an interview, that it took me a long time to develop a voice, and now that I found it, she's going to use her voice. I mean, it's great. Barbara Bush's words, the Bush family was fabulous. The president, Barbara Bush, and Laura Bush were great assistants, and they answered me and answered emails. I am ever hopeful. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she's a great lover of classical music and had listened to some of my CDs, so, and always wrote to me. And then I wrote to her about this, and we only used one sentence of hers, and she was very upset I was only going to use one sentence. But I said, the one sentence is really great, and Michelle Obama, I want a president, which she said at an inaugurate, the 2016. And that took a long time to get that permission. But that's my history here. But I'm really proud, and who else? Anthony said to me, what are you going to do because it's published? Well, people get music online, and Frances Perkins is somebody I'm going to look at. Secretary of Labor under FDR. But remember, a lot of these words are not musical, and they're hard to write music to. But we'll see what happens. And by the way, not everybody and every Supreme Court justice is in this. Not everybody, even if words of public domain, wanted to be part of this or want their words set to music. And I respected their opinion, even though it drove me crazy. But I'm always open to suggestions. But we really took women that made very strong impact. And, let's be honest, to pick women from both parties that were not divisive every day on television, that's important too, because some people could get nasty.
I can't tell you how sorry I am to have to say we're out of time.
Good, okay, that's good.
It has been absolutely fabulous chatting with you. And
thank you.
Thank you. I thank you on behalf of the whole congregation for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And sharing
and
your
for doing
time.
the piece. Am I allowed to say one more thing? If anybody knows a literary agent, I would love to make this a children's book. So that's important to say. Impossible, but thank you.
Now I would like to invite all of you to stand as you are able and join in singing our final hymn, Let All the Beauty We Have Known.
We release this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I want to thank Judith for being here this weekend. It's been such a wonderful visit. I want to encourage everybody to come see and hear the words of these fantastic women throughout history on October, here's the shameless plug, October 19th and 20th and we'll be here in the morning and on October 19th and the evening in October, 20th and 21st. I keep getting the dates wrong. I should get them right. There are flyers in the lobby and they're right. So our closing words are from Sarah Eileen Lawal. In this time of uncertainty, we remember the good will go on as we work to move forward together, we the people seeking that which unites us, with our arms reaching out wide for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. May love prevail.